Morning everybody, welcome to Talk Tuesday today. I'm going to be talking today about self-judgment or self-criticism, to call it another phrase. It is something that is so common, and the reason that I thought I'd talk about it today is that I actually caught myself in some self-judgment the other day, so I thought it would be a good one to talk about. And even though I'm aware of it, it's something that I still do, and most of us probably do. And it has various different causes, and I'll go through some of them today before talking about ways in which we can learn to overcome it. And I guess one of the most common causes is often fear of others judging us. And some examples of ways in which we judge ourselves are the ways that we talk to ourselves. So, for example, I'm stupid. Because, you know, if you've done something that you think is a bit daft and you just say to yourself, oh, I'm really stupid. You might say, I'll never be able to do that. You might say, I'm too fat, or I'm not good enough. I mean, a lot of it is about I'm not good enough in some way or another. But the thing is that our value doesn't depend on what we can or can't do, and nor does it depend on what we look like or what size we are. I mean, when you think about it, it's a bit crazy to think that our self-worth does depend on those kinds of things, but we still judge ourselves over them. And persistent self-judgment, because it's something that can become persistent over time, it leads to shame, to guilt, and it can end up in leading to anxiety and depression. So, you know, it's something that it is really good to be aware of and try to overcome as much as we can. And having self-judgment basically keeps us stuck. You know, it can prevent us from doing the things that we want to do. If we think, for example, I'll never be able to do that, it might stop us from doing something. Whereas if we can get over that feeling of we're not good enough or we won't be able to do it, then we can go and do whatever that thing is that we want to do. And, you know, we can learn something new. So ways, or rather causes of self-judgment, I mentioned fear of others judging us, but another very common one is perfectionism. But the problem with that is that, well, number one, we don't need to be perfect. And number two, who says what's perfect anyway? You know, one person's view of what is perfect might be completely different to another's view of what's perfect. So another cause of self-judgment can be what I often refer to as comparisonitis. In other words, comparing ourselves to other people. But, you know, those people that we're comparing ourselves with are not us. And we as humans are all meant to be different. We're not meant to be carbon copies of each other. And the chances are that that person that you're comparing yourself to probably judges themselves for various things anyway. So it is just all about valuing ourselves for the individuals that we are. And then another cause of self-judgment can actually come from judgments or opinions that we've received from others at some time in our lives. And often that's when we're a child. You know, that thing where maybe a careless teacher or somebody else has said to you that, oh, you're no good at that, you know, you'll never make anything of yourself. That kind of unguarded comment, that can really hit hard and really keep rooted in our sense of self. And then, you know, it affects what we do going forward. And if that's the case, if you can analyse that something you're judging yourself for actually comes from what is essentially somebody else's opinion, it's really good to remember that an opinion is just an opinion. It doesn't make it true. It's not a fact. And, you know, that opinion that somebody else might have held doesn't define who you are. And so that's really, really important to bring that into your awareness. So those are a few of the causes, as I've said, for self-judgment. There are some ways that you can learn to overcome it. So they're in no particular order, but when I talk about first, second, etc., that's just on my list. So the first one that I've got on my list is accepting yourself, which is a biggie. If you accept yourself and accept that making mistakes or having little hiccups in our lives are only part of being human, then your self-worth will increase, because it is all about accepting ourselves just as we are. Because I talked earlier about perfectionism, but in this sense, we are perfect just as we are. We're exactly as we are meant to be, and we're exactly where we're meant to be in life. So accepting yourself goes a long way towards cutting down the self-judgment. So another big one is forgiving yourself for mistakes. So if you've had made mistakes in the past, which we all have, because again, that's part of being human, but if you're beating yourself up still about some mistake or more than one mistake that you've made in the past, that is keeping you stuck. So you need to learn to forgive yourself for that mistake or those mistakes, and accept again that they're just part of the learning experience, and they're what helps to make us grow. And if you want to know more about forgiveness, I've done other videos about it. So the next one is to acknowledge your accomplishments, because we all have plenty of accomplishments, but when we get into self-judgment mode, we tend to forget all about those and just focus on the things that we don't like in ourselves. So acknowledging your accomplishments is a really good way to put your focus elsewhere. And then another really super important thing to do is to treat yourself with compassion. Treat yourself in the same way that you would a friend. So whatever it is that you're judging yourself for, so for example, the one I said earlier about I'm too fat, which is something I caught myself in saying not so long back. If you were talking to a friend, there's no way you would say that to a friend. You would talk kindly to them and tell them, that they're beautiful just as they are. Now, that kind talk is what you need to use on yourself instead of the judgmental talk. And that, I think, is perhaps, well, for me, I think that is probably the biggest one. It's really learn to treat yourself with compassion. And when you find yourself judging yourself, because, we won't change overnight, it's impossible, don't judge yourself for the fact that you've noticed you've judged yourself, if you see what I mean. Don't beat yourself up twice for having done that, beating yourself up once, but instead turn it around so that you then talk to yourself kindly, so that, instead of saying I'm stupid, then catch yourself, notice that you've said I'm stupid, and then say to yourself instead, I'm learning, I'm a human, I'm learning from my mistakes, I can do this. All that kind of positive talk is much, much better for yourself, and saying it inwardly really, really helps you. And then the final one I wanted to talk about is to use affirmations, which are really powerful. Affirmations are basically just a positive statement, but it's really important that it's in the present tense, and it's important to keep repeating it. You don't have to say it out loud, although it's very powerful if you do, but you can say it inwardly. I use them inwardly, and it's a great one to do. So if you catch yourself in self-judgment, and then you want to turn it around into something more positive as an affirmation, excuse me, you can do that. So instead of saying I'm stupid, you realise that you've said I'm stupid, and then you turn that into an affirmation of, I am learning to do whatever it is that you feel that you couldn't do, or, I can, I don't know, I can't think of one off the top of my head. So, okay, just going back to my childhood, I was not particularly great at doing maths, and I would always say, oh, I'm useless at maths, I can't do maths, and I have to confess, I still do say that sometimes. So I could turn that around and say, I can do this maths, I can do this, I'm good enough to do this. Do you see what I mean? Just in trying to turn it around into a little more positive. And it's something that you might need to work on, to work out what exactly is the right phraseology for you in the particular circumstance. But one that's really good for every circumstance is just to say, I approve of myself. Because if we love ourselves and accept ourselves, then eventually the self-judgment will be completely minimised, and you won't, I don't know whether it'll ever completely stop, because again, we're only human and these things creep in, but self-love and self-acceptance is at the root of changing all of this. So if you use that, just that very brief phrase, I approve of myself, and you say it over and over inwardly, and again, that's a good one. You know, for in my example, when I was saying I'm stupid or I'm too fat or whatever it is, after you've said that to yourself and you catch yourself doing it, just say, I approve of myself, I approve of myself, I approve of myself. And as I say, you don't have to say it out loud, but just go have it as a little mantra in your mind. And the more that you say it, the more that your subconscious will start to believe it, and that will change everything. So that's just a little bit about self-judgment. As always, I'm very happy to talk to you. If you want a bit more help with that, do give me a call or book one of my free calls if you'd like to. You can do that by going on my website, which is JackieWilliamson.com. So thanks as always for watching. Have a great day and a great week, and I'll be back here again with you soon. Bye bye for now.